Yale. It was 2016. I was about to start writing my PhD dissertation and wanted to get a postdoc position after my PhD, where I would be surrounded by a group of top researchers from all around the world and guided by an excellent expert in the field. That was what I was imagining. It is a normal career path for most biology PhDs. My PhD supervisor was very supportive. She recommended a few labs in Canada and US in and outside her field. My PhD supervisor, she's a very nice person and I will talk more about her in the later videos. Anyway, I prefer to study in a new field where I already have some research experience. And I wanted to study in a field where big discoveries has started being made and has huge potential in the near future that will have big impacts in not only in science but also in daily lives. So I searched for potential labs along the East Coast and wanted to avoid the West Coast where a huge earthquake is highly likely in the next few decades. I know this sounds weird to some people, but this is because I have already experienced a few small earthquakes when I was in Vancouver. Many geologists already predicted a huge seismic activity along the West Coast in the next few decades. I know predictions are just predictions, but I didn't want to and still don't want to take a chance. Of course, there are storms and hurricanes every year along the East Coast, but they are more foreseeable within from a few hours to a few days. So you can run out to a safer place when a hurricane hits, but not when an earthquake hits. There's almost no pre-sign for an earthquake. Anyway, so Harvard, MIT, Yale, Columbia, UPenn, Johns Hopkins, Princeton, they were all great options for me. So I searched out to their department websites, potential labs, web pages, as well as their recent research articles, and decided to contact 6 to 7 potential labs. So I contacted them. After a while, I received emails from 4 of them. And I got one from Yale, one from MIT, and 2 from Harvard. And I have decided to pay a visit to them before saying yes to any of them. So I suggested a visit to all 4 labs in early September, and they all agreed and supported me financially. So I flew to Boston in early September and stayed there for about a week for 3 of my 4 interviews, one from Harvard, one from MIT and 2 from Harvard. And took a train from there to New Haven, where I had my last interview at Yale. So the interviews were often an 1-hour presentation by me about my PhD research to the lab members, followed by a Q&A session and a free lunch or dinner with some of their lab members. All interviews were scheduled at different days, and my MIT interview went great. I had a long discussion after my presentation with the professor alone, and she liked me, I liked her lab. My first Harvard interview was great. The professor had a huge lab which he was about to move to another place, and he expected independence from each of the researchers with less guidance from him. I needed and wanted a close guide from my supervisor. So I put his lab in the 2nd or 3rd place in my head, although he is a wonderful leading scientist. My second interview at Harvard with another lab also went great. We had a lunch together and I visited the lab. But the professor seems like a very direct person. I can tell that from his interaction with his lab members. So I put a question mark in my head next to his lab. That's because I wanted my 3, 4, 5, 6 years, however long my postdoc is, to be comfortable. I also visited the campus and walked around the city. The campus is great. It's a very vibrant place full of high quality research atmosphere. If I wanted to be a researcher, this is one of the few places on earth where I really want to do research for the rest of my life. I followed the student guide and learned about Harvard history. I also saw dorms where Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and Matt Damon lived. I also got a picture with John Howard and heard about the 3 lies about the statue. I also visited the Harvard Law School where President Obama went to school. I liked the place, but I had one last place to visit before deciding. That was Yale. I took a train from Boston to New Haven and arrived after a few hours. The professor was great. He booked a hotel for me where I stayed one night. I should have stayed one more night and walked around more. Although his lab is relatively small, he has been running the lab for about 30 years. And he said to me that, I can run this lab for another 30 years. That was very inspiring. He is very approachable and his lab size was just right for me so that I can get enough guidance from him. It almost felt like a home to me when I was interacting with his lab members. I really liked the lab. New Haven is a great place to live for me too. I liked all the labs. Of course, I have a list of likes in my head. If I was alone, I could have joined one of them. But that didn't happen. And my parents suggested me to walk safer, not faster. They're saying that staying in Canada probably is a better and safer option for me. I prefer to stay in Canada too. That was partially because I wanted to live in the same city with my girlfriend who was at the time applying for graduate school. We weren't sure she will be accepted by any of these schools that I talked about. Plus, it was very hard to get a green card in US than in Canada. I think still is, which we really needed as international students. Another funny reason was that 2016 US presidential election looked very weird to me. At the time, Trump was getting really a lot of attention for his new policies, especially those ones that involve work permits. And as international students, we weren't sure we would be affected or not if Trump got elected. Again, I did not want to take a chance. At the time, the election was red hot in the States. Even if Hillary got elected, my girlfriend and I would be struggling for getting a green card for ourselves. So we decided to take a look at Canadian universities instead. Later, I accepted a postdoc position in Toronto, and in the following year, we went to Toronto. This turned out to be a much better choice than we expected. In the past decade, I have made a few big choices that really pleasantly surprised me. Based on my personal experience, one can firmly tell which one is a better choice when he or she look backward, not forward. I think life is a very fascinating journey full of surprises that one should learn to enjoy. At the end, I wish you all the best of luck. Don't forget to click the thumb up button and subscribe to my channel.